Okay, stream of consciousness, take 2. In case you're wondering, take 1. My phone shut off on me, and I don't know, technology. It's great because basically, as I was saying, I'm going to record this and just tie it to an LLM, to AI, and have it build me a document or a business plan out of this video. So, but one thing I absolutely hate is having to record something twice or 3 times, like that I just did, especially when it's, all right, I'm done bitching. Okay, so idea. I was on x.com and there's a poster there called Carnivorous Aurelius, and he's kind of like a conspiracy theory, but he also focuses on a lot of like natural eating and eating meat, as his name would indicate. Anyway, he posted something and he said, what I'd like to do is find a way to crowdsource with 1,000 people to pay $1,000 each to buy 1,000 acres, he said, in a tropical, banana republic country on the beach, and build a community. So I commented on that post and I said, okay, 1,000 people times $1,000 is $10 million. I said, I think it would be a lot easier to get there if you just did 500 people paying $20,000 each. And then you'd have that same $10 million. Because 1,000 people, 500 is a lot, but getting 1,000 people to agree on anything, that sounds like chaos. So I got a lot of likes on that post. So my wheels have been turning, and I wanted to go ahead and just record this and then upload it to AI and do a business plan. And so my concept is to, as I said, 500. So, but basically what I'm reconsidering, because instead of just 500 people, other options to be able to buy more or have couples and have it shared and so on. So the way I'm looking at this is, first I researched land in El Salvador. So I think that's, now the safest, it's safer than the United States. It's the safest country in the Americas, and it's like second in the world to like Switzerland. So, and it's still dirt cheap there, but I think that's a good bet. So anyway, El Salvador. And I found a 114 acre property on the beach which is nowhere near 1,000, right? For $9 million. So I think this Carnivorous Aurelius is smoking crack if he thinks he's going to get 1,000 acres anywhere near the beach for that much money. Now, in this lot, 114 acres, it was hilly. Wasn't the best buildable lot. It really wasn't. And, good location though. And so that would be, 5 people at 5 people per acre density if you had the original 500 number, which is a bit high. And so I looked at a different lot. I really didn't spend much time at all looking at land. There'd be after a lot more research done. But this other lot in El Salvador was about 5 or 10 miles inland from the beach. It was much better land. It was hilly, but there was already established farms. There was flat areas, and it was hilly. It wasn't steep. It was really, really attractive. They had cornfields, and there's a lot of places that you could see where you could build buildable lots. And that was 315 acres. We'll just call it 300 acres, and it was only $1 million. So now you have a density of, if you had 500 people, that's, density of like, I don't know, it's a lot lower per you'll have plenty of space to do farming, do agriculture, do raising of some of the, goats, chickens, quail, ducks, whatever, cattle, grow crops, moringa, things that are native there, things that are cash, and also put in some tiny home properties or units for an experiential Airbnb to generate revenue down the road. So my idea how to do this equitably, because 500 people is still a lot of people and it's a communal type thing, and so how do you do that equitably, especially when you're going to have some people that buy in as a couple, some people who buy in individually, some people may have an entire family they want to move in. So there's going to be some variables there, obviously, right? And so my initial thought was 500 people, but not everyone's, there's going to be, I said, what if half of those are coupled up? That would mean, you only need 250 lots. So, and what if, there's of the individuals that are there, they're only going to want to buy, or they're going to want to buy extra shares in the business or in the property as it is, and more than their $20,000 worth. So yeah, so where's my math is off. No, I did the math, and basically if 20% want to invest more and 50% of the people are coming as a couple, what I arrived at is approximately 300 buildable lots is all you would need, right? So couples, they get one lot, they're together, living together. A single individual also would get one lot. So that raises a concern of, well, that's not fair, right? Why should we pay? Because every individual has to pay the 20 grand. So whether you're a couple or not, it's not a buy-in per lot, it's a buy-in per head initially. And we'll just say for anyone over 12. So if you're a family of 4 and you want in, if your kids are over 12, they have to, you got to come up with 4 times 20, $80,000 to buy in, and you still only get one lot. So why is that fair, or why is that, what's the reasoning behind that, or how do I make that equitable is the bigger question. So basically, this is going to be divvied out into shares through NFTs. So a non-fungible token, which, going back to the crypto days, that's what that is, but those are the most secure. And there's companies out there that are doing this now. Real estate businesses, like they buy high rise in Dubai, it's worth $100 million. They sell 1,000 shares. Everybody, you get $100,000 share. You can sell it at any time to anyone else, and it's very easy, and it's a very low friction way to do a real estate project. Okay, so that's my idea for dividing it up. Now, initially, I'm thinking like maybe 600 shares, but I want that to be kind of a floating number, and I think you'll understand why. Because basically, when someone comes in and say, the low-end buyer, the one single person who just wants $20,000 for his single share and his quarter-acre lot, and that's it. Okay, and then you have the couple buyer. They spend $40,000, but they're only getting 1 quarter-acre lot. So you have to reward them somehow. You have to incentivize them, and the way you do that is by giving them an additional share in the property. And at first you may say, that doesn't sound like a good deal at all, but stick with me and you'll see why. Then you're going to have, like, say, the individual who's like, I love this idea, I want more ownership, I just want to see it succeed. how much can I buy? So I cap it at 10 shares. So, but you still only get the quarter acre, right? And that's the only piece of property. And really, it's not even yours. It's just where you can build your home. And or maybe it is yours. Maybe we do deed it. I don't know. These are the things you have to work out. But you get your quarter acre spot, but you also get ownership in the collective overall property. And we're going to do other things to add value to the property to increase the value of this overall project. But it's really not about the money. It's just, this is the only way I could think to do it equitably while preserving the nature of the overall project and not turning it into just one big massive subdivision. We want to have land to farm on. We want to have land just for nature. We want to have land to raise livestock and chickens and communal areas and whatever else. So with that being said, I think there's going to be a fair number of people that would want to come in as a couple or buy extra. So I'm thinking for the total project, we probably need 600 shares, but only probably about 300 quarter acre lots. So that's 75 acres worth of lots that are buildable, and then the other 225 acres would be farmable, etc., for other usages. And with that being said, if we sell someone that says, I want to max out, I want 10 shares in my contract, and so it'll be limited, so you can only have one contract per purchasing family, essentially. And what that means is if you're a married couple and you have minor children, or you're just a married couple, or you're just going in as a couple, as a pair, that contract is limited at 10 shares. You could also be an individual to do this. It doesn't matter. So say an individual buys 10 shares, so we're gonna have to incentivize that for them to be able to get that 10 shares. So I'm thinking that we either add more shares, because I do really want to stay at the target of 10 million. So instead of just 500 shares, make it 600 shares, but the target of $10 million raised. And so so maybe we say the max spend is 200,000, but you get 14 shares, right? Or 15 shares. So instead of just 10. So now you've got a larger equity stake in the entire project. You're still just getting your 1/4 acre to build your property on. But we're going to use that money for a lot of other things to increase the overall value of the property, such as the Airbnb units, the gravel roads put out throughout the property, communal use owned by the property as a whole. I don't want to call it a corporation, but maybe that's what it'll end up being. And whatever the structure is, but it's owned by the property, like vehicles, and we're talking like work trucks, backhoes. I'm thinking of building a trailer that, think of like has 4 benches across it, and you can put like 18, 20 people on it, hook it up to the back of the work truck, and that'll be our shuttle back and forth to the beach. Fun things like that. Who knows? But we're going to use it also, that extra funds, because think about it, if we raise, the target is 10 million, we put 1 million on the land, and now we've got 9 million to spend. We're going to build, like I said, the communal properties for initially, and now, no, we're not going to build 500 unit communal properties. That's just not going to happen. It's going to be, moderated. I mean, it's going to be encouraged that you need to be migrating out and living on your 1/4 acre, but we do want to have the capability to house people that are owners in a communal way, that while they get their land set up, because maybe they have clear trees, maybe get it leveled, all that stuff. which also will be included in my concept. That's why I'm recording this, is because I'm thinking that all quarter acre lots will not be equal, but they should be, right? So you can't give one person a hilly, covered in trees lot and say, good luck leveling it, you're on your own. Well, the other person gets, perfectly flat, already cleaned lot, and they have the advantage, right? So that being said, the total collective, part of your investment will be a cleared quarter acre lot, a cleared and leveled, right? But everything else is up to you, because maybe you just want to put a tent on it. Maybe you just want to put a RV on it. Maybe you want to pour a foundation and build a house. That'll be up to you. So you're getting a quarter acre cleared lot and leveled with a building pad. And so that's what the extra 9 million, building some Airbnb units, building some communal spaces, putting in the roads, things like that. So and buying vehicles and trucks. So, and how will that be spent? In other words, who gets to decide who buys what? And that's a big thing when you've got 500 people-ish, maybe 300, whatever, investing in this. So my concept is, well, first we're going to have a purchasing board, a procurement board. I want to have 9 people on the board so that there's always an uneven number. And essentially in the beginning, it'll be the first 9 people that buy in will be on the procurement board. And I'm thinking that positions will expire every 6 months. So, and if you're on the procurement board and someone else is willing to take your spot, you have to give it up. You can't go back to back and just stay in the spot. So it's going to be continuously rotating. Now, once people start moving to the property, I want to make it a requirement to be on the procurement board that, well, not a requirement, but the first options go to those people that are spending at least 6 months living at the property. Why is that? Because they're going to have the closest eye on what is actually needed. So why a procurement board? Well, any owner at any time can submit a suggestion and say, we want, we think we want a pool. We want to build a pool and a clubhouse. So, you've got $7 million left. We think it'd be a great idea. Okay, that gets submitted to the procurement board. And if there's a 5-4 majority in the procurement board, then it goes to vote out to all owners for final approval. And these ideas can be submitted at any time to the procurement board. And I'm thinking like once a month or once a quarter, probably. Then all the ones that pass the procurement board are brought to the general election and voted on by everyone with shares. Now, this is where the additional value, one of the ways that you get additional value by owning more shares, because every share gets a vote, not every person. So if you are a couple and you own 10 shares, it's like you get 5 votes each. And votes are determined by contract. So if you're, if it's you and your wife and you're the only one on the call, you can use your 10 votes in your contract. If it's just your wife on the call, and I'm thinking like doing a Zoom call with like one of those survey type votes, and everyone can do a silent vote. And so anything submitted, so say the pool clubhouse, the board who's closest to it, they're like, look, it's a great idea. Right now we're too early in the project. We're not allocating the kind of funds that we need yet to a pool and a clubhouse. And it gets voted down by the committee, and it never makes it to a general vote. And fine, because that's, we have a more focused group that is entrenched in the project and in the day-to-day, that understands a little bit more of what's going on. Now, say someone says, you know what, I want to plant this particular crop because I did a ton of research and moringa grows really well and we could make a lot of money, and it's in massive demand. And I think this is a great idea for us to allocate, 3 or 4 acres or 5 acres to growing moringa. And I want to submit that, and I want that to be something we spend money on to get the moringa seeds and convert 5 acres to moringa. And the board goes, that's a great idea. And we get 7 out of 9 that say, let's do that. Then that goes out to the general, vote, the once a quarter general vote. And what I'm thinking is, maybe, I don't know, 2/3 majority or maybe a 60% majority to pass anything. But the nice thing is when it comes out of the committee, it's already been thought through, and basically if the committee approves it, it's like they're recommending it at that point, right? So you get a better feel for, instead of just random 500 people, I want a lazy river, I want to, I think we should buy go-karts or 4x4s and horses, so not saying those are bad ideas, those absolutely could be a great idea, but run it through a filter before it goes to the general vote. And if people are worried about, well, what if the 9 people are corrupt and they only vote on the things they want, well, that's why it's a rotating position every 6 months. If you've been on the board, and there's someone else eligible that is interested, you have to give up your seat. So to keep out, people that are just want to entrench themselves and never leave. So that, I think, will solve that issue and budget expenditure concern or issues. And I think initially there will be some benchmark projects, if you will, that will already be decided on that, will be built. You'll know going in, like, these things are absolutely 100% getting built. Gravel roads, a communal living space for temporary living with a kitchen and like 10 bedrooms, basic stuff. And a few, men's, women's communal bathrooms with showers, whatever. So something like that, a structure like that will be built, roads, and yeah. So, and then from there, then it goes, everything else goes to committee and then out to a general vote as we sell out. So what else? Yeah, so everything can be, I think that really summarizes it. That's not that complicated, and I think it's a good system to account for a lot of the headaches that would come up, right? And then the other thing I want to address is why is it more value? Why would someone, buy part of the property? And I guess we would have to deed them their 1/4 acre lot, because in the end, they're going to decide what goes on. And if they build a permanent structure, then that's going to go into their contract when they go to sell, that they're selling their 10 shares plus, they decided to build a 3-bedroom, 2-bath that's now worth $400,000 in addition to their 10 shares, right? So they're going to want to get that out of it. Other things that I think would be useful would be maybe an approval process for people who want to join, an obvious background check so we don't get criminals and thugs. Another thing might be some some rules of the road of, you know, and kind of like who we're looking for. I'm thinking this, you know, I would just put it out there, like do YouTube videos and stuff and say like, you know, if you're a social justice warrior, this isn't for you. You know, in fact, if you're a political activist of any kind, like this isn't for you. We want to leave all that behind. If you're going to come to El Salvador and complain that Bukele's, you know, violating civil rights by locking up all these MS-13 members, and you have a bone to pick about that, this is not for you. You know, if you're gay or whatever, that's fine, just as long as you're not here to proselytize and to complain and be woke. And if you took gender studies for college, this is probably not for you. So we do want to have some kind of identity for the community, but we don't want it to be strict. We just don't want people that are going to make our lives hell and, you know, complain that the property's not, oh, there's not enough diversity, there's too many white males here. And I'm not even saying that's going to happen. Who knows who will end up buying. But, you know, like we want to leave all that behind, and we want to have people that are more willing to be focused on, hey, what's the best crops to grow here? What are the best methods for that? How do I build, what's the best way to build a cool ass, unique looking Airbnb rental that'll maximize revenue? How do we market this to draw people who are like-minded that may even be interested in investing in the property? How do we, you know, things that we should be collectively concerned about, not is there enough African Americans represented in the community. Let's not give a flying F about any of that. And if you're of that bent and you can't leave that behind and you're a political activist, then this is not for you. So so that would be one thing. I had another really kind of critical thing that I thought of and I forgot, which is why I wanted to record this. I'll pause, see if I think of it. Okay, another thing is there has to be flexibility. Say we sell out of all the shares and all the quarter acre lots are gone and spoken for, and all the shares and the project is closed. I'm a single guy and I'm living there, and because this project is so cool, because I'm now big time on YouTube and people are still interested, and I meet a chick and she's like, I want to, you know, we start dating and she's like, I want to live there. And I'm like, fantastic, you know, we're a couple, you're moving in. How do we account for that, right? We've already sold out the project, so that's one thing. And the other thing is, what if people have kids while they're there? So there's got to be a way to account for that. And so I think there's got to be a slush fund of additional shares available for, you know, contract add-ons in the event of life events, we'll call it. So there would have to be some tokens that are held in arrears for that specific purpose that will be required. That, yeah, so if you are a family and you have a kid, you're not automatically going to have to pay 20 grand, but when they turn 12 and you're still there, then you have to pay 20 grand. If you are a single person and you've, you know, only bought one share, and even if you bought 10 shares but you came in as single, well, I don't know, how would we handle that? I guess you could plus one it as part of your contract if you bought extra in the entry. But say you you went the lowest possible cost way as a single individual and only bought one share at 20 grand, then you would have to, if you had your girlfriend move in, it would cost another $20,000. You would get another share allocated. You wouldn't get the bonus share, or maybe you would, I don't know. We'd have to vote on that. But these are some things that are fluid, because life is not fixed, you know, these are fluid. The other thing is, if you wanted to sell it, I think we would want to vote on whoever you sold it to get approval on that, which may scare some people, but let's face it, it's a different thing. It's community. Oh, and then the other, this is huge. This is core to the project. This is what I was trying to think of, is there's a work dedication amount as well. And I don't know what that is, but I'm thinking 10 hours a week. But I'm also thinking, well, a lot of people, I want to leave this open to people that aren't going to live there full time, 12 months a year. So what I'm thinking is, 10 hours a week for like 3 months. So that would be 3 times, or 10 times 4 weeks is 40 hours a month times 3, 120 hours. So somehow, some way, every contract holder, every individual on the contract, so if you have a couple contract, that's twice that amount then, right? So every person, so this would be by person, not by contract, every person has to commit to 120 hours of contributory work on the property. Now, to keep it even more flexible and open to those who say, I just love this idea. I got a bunch of money laying around. I want to buy 10 shares and just have this as a cool little hipster vacation spot I can go spend 2 weeks a year at. Great. Sounds good to me. You're welcome to do that. And the way you offset it or compensate for your work hours is you pay to have someone replace you with your work hours. You hire a local El Salvadoran to come in to the property to do work. Pretty easy. And I don't know whatever the going rate is what you end up paying for that. And say I live there and I'm like, you know what, I want to hire someone. Fine. That's fine. If you never want to lift your finger, if you're a lazy ass, I don't think anyone would do that who's actually living there, because I think you'd be the type of person that wants to be contributory and get your hands in the dirt and just do things. That's part of the reason you're doing this. But if for some reason, maybe you're handicapped, maybe you're lazy, maybe you suck at all physical labor, which we would have administrative roles too. Whatever, no judgment. You just don't want to do it and you've got more money. Great. You can hire someone. I think that would bode well with El Salvador anyway, that we are contributing to their economy by hiring people for work, which we would be anyway, for out of the $9 million that we'd be spending. I mean, we're going to be hiring people anyway. But out of the contributory work requirement, you can hire people to replace you and do that. So what else? Okay, so say we pull this off and now we've raised $10 million, over time. We've built some community housing. We've built there's people developing their properties. We've cleared 30 lots. We've built what was the number? 75 lots, 75 acres, 300 lots. Eesh. 300 lots, and we've built gravel roads back to them. We've got 7 or 8, really cool, funky ass Airbnbs that we're booking on a regular basis because people want to come see this place and stay in these Airbnbs. We're selling, we've got moringa crops, we've got goats, we've got, we're self-sustaining. We're grinding moringa and selling that, which, by the way, I hear that's extremely profitable. So this property, we've got 100 people that are living there at least 6 months out of the year, another 200 that just visit, some for a month, some for 3 months, some for a week. And this place is humming along like a top. And someone says, well, I want to sell. Okay, how do we value it? How do we determine now what it's worth? Well, I guess it's just a free market exchange is really what it boils down to. They list their 10 NFTs, their portion of ownership. So if we sold 600, that would be, so 6 would be 1%. So, actually, they bought the max. They're getting like 14. I think we determined 14 or 15 actually. If they bought the max, so they've got their 15 NFTs. If there's 600 sold, so that's worth, 2.5% of the total value of the property. But they just sell for what they can sell it for, and let the market determine. And the buyer has to realize that they're on the hook for their share of work as well. And they'd have a buyer contract that stipulates all that. They realize that they have to get voted in with a 60% majority. They realize they have to do a background check, and they'll be welcomed into the property as a part owner. And the profits that come from the Airbnb and any external sales of agricultural goods, those, and also we're going to do a YouTube channel, Facebook channel, specifically for the property, where we can have everybody just upload content to that on a regular basis, and anyone who is an owner can shoot videos and load it to this channel and just go viral and generate revenue from the YouTube channel. And Facebook is paying these days too, so we'll utilize that for revenue generation. So I really think that over time this will be a revenue generator, and at least cover the costs of everything, right? And being the idea that it is communal, right? I mean, we want to spread that revenue out amongst all the shareholders. So if you're living there, let's take the one shareholder person, you get whatever your shareholder amount is worth, and you're on the property, you can use that to buy food, whatever. In addition to we don't want this to all be about profit, and that's going to have to be a core understanding that not all we grow and raise on the property is actually for selling for profit. In fact, I would say the majority of or all of the animals probably will just be for consumption and the crops. So if you're like, well, I'm only there 2 weeks out of the year and I only eat a half a goat and some eggs and some of the orange juice from the orange citrus grove, too bad. Come more often. And some people are going to live there full time, 12 months, 365 days a year, and they're only going to eat what they grow. But guess who's going to be doing the work and contributing, and benefiting from that? And I think naturally, if you're there, maybe we put in, 10 hours a week required if you're living on property no matter what. And the minimum per contract holder is, as we discussed, 120 hours, but you can outsource that in any way, shape, or form you want. But so say you only do 2 weeks a year there, and you don't want to spend any of that 2 weeks working, you can outsource that, and you understand that's part of your contract. But let's say you're a 12 months, so then it converts to once you exceed 3 months living on site and you're 120 hours, every week beyond that is you have to contribute 10 hours a week, and in return you can eat the livestock, the chicken eggs, the dove eggs, the quail, or not dove eggs, but quail eggs, whatever we end up, citrus, the corn that's already there, whatever, right? And that's kind of really the crux and the basis of this project. Is it's an alternative to the mainstream economy. It's our own economy. It's not about, if you're an investor, you're not trying to come out the other end with maximizing your profit. That is not the goal of any investor, and it shouldn't be. In fact, we prefer that they never sell, and maybe pass it on to their family or friends or whoever. But essentially, the real core reason for this is we're hoping many, if not all, of the owners live on the property at least 6 months, maybe 12 months a year, and are contributing, and we start a whole new economy and a whole new way of living, and it's outside of the normal economy. But we have to use money, we have to do it this way. It's the best way I can think of. If you can come up with a better way, you're welcome to start your own. So that is got to be the core focus. In fact, when I do download this, I want to tell the AI system to put this part in the beginning and the intro, and to emphasize that this community is not about investing to make profit. It's about buying into an alternative economy and a different way of living. And we hope that most investors do end up living on the property, but we want to leave it flexible because we understand the reality is not everyone will, and for whatever reason. So we want to have it open to that. The other thing I thought of is, what if I'm an owner, I got my quarter acre, I build a cool house, I build a cool tiny home. I want to rent it out in addition to the, when I'm not there, to the other Airbnbs. Do I get to keep that revenue? And I think what would be fair is, yes, that the owner of that property would get to keep the revenue from their individual property. Again, you only get one lot, so you're not going to turn this into some crazy Airbnb business. But if you want to build a $200,000 home and you want to cover some of your costs by running it on Airbnb, cool. I think that should be allowed. I really do. And I don't even care if that's all you do with it. You know what I mean? Like most people, because I don't know, just I don't want this to be some strict thing where I'm trying to monitor and manage every aspect of every single thing. So we're hoping to attract people that want to live there and experience an alternative way of living and economy. And you know, hopefully there's people that will be able to move in there with their 20 grand, put up a basic structure, say they spend another 20 grand, but they're going to be responsible. Oh, that's right. This is also another key point, and this is why I'm doing this video, is that there will be no utilities brought out through the property. That's not going to happen. Just a gravel road, that's it. So all properties will have to be off-grid, which is not that big of a deal these days. You can easily power a home now with solar and wind. You can easily, in El Salvador, there's plenty of rain, do a water catchment system or drill a well and have water. You can easily do a composting toilet or an incinerating toilet and not have to worry about sewage. You can easily, what else is there? Yeah. So you got electric, you got water, you got sewage, you've got internet through Starlink, and we build the road to your lot and level it for you, so you're good to go there. And you know, we're gonna have some people that just spend 20 grand and they put up a freaking tent. And I mean, we will have to write in some requirements for how you dispose of your waste. I mean, we don't want you shitting willy-nilly. But if you put up a tent and you spend 20 grand and you buy one of those badass now inflatable tents that are like $1,500, and you furnish it however you have, and you go all in, and you're there living off the land. I mean, the project, obviously, we're not, if you're one of the first ones, you better have some extra money to buy food for yourself, because it's going to take some doing to get there. But I can see it being at a certain point where you can spend 25 grand, get your lot in your tent, and be eating goats and fruit and moringa and whatever else is growing on the land, and eggs, and being able to survive on just that. And that is really what we're after here. Yeah, that being said, we want to attract people that are contributors and not just some dirtbag deadbeat who's got a drug habit and is looking to get by on as little as possible. That person, hopefully that's why we would want to screen, because I mean, that's very inexpensive, right, way of living, and we don't want to attract, I'm sorry, we want to have a standard. I don't want it to turn into a homeless encampment like, in South LA, where there's garbage all over the place. Oh, so that's the other thing. Can you get thrown out of the property? And the answer is yes, you can. So one, there'll be in the laws like a zero strike policy. If you do anything, like if you're, rape someone, murder someone, molest a child, whatever, any of these big crimes or hardcore drug use, you're gone. Like, there will be no vote, there'll be no judge, you're out. And we'll worry about your shares, and you can sell your shares at that point. Those will still be yours, but you can't stay on the property anymore. You're gone. And then, we don't want to, I want to be able to, if you want to put a camper up, great. If you want to put a tent up, great. You want to build a really funky hobbit home, great. But we're not going to put up with trash. We're not going to put up with, put up a speaker system and you jam hip hop 24/7. You know, those types of things, they're not going to be automatic removals, but you can get voted out. You can definitely get voted off the island, and but it'll be like after 3 strikes. I mean, I don't want this to be weird where people are constantly monitoring their neighbors and saying, oh, they played their music too loud and now I'm upset. And you know, no, I want everyone, you know, to be neighborly, to be considerate, and I don't think it'll be an issue. I really don't, but I do want to have the ability to have a process in place in case so that would be like a 3-time offender. Like, let's say for instance my sister moved down there and she wanted to play her drums. Well, I would want her to be able to play her drums, and probably with most people that live there, but maybe not at 2 in the morning, which she does sometimes. So, you know, we'd have to have some kind of sound ordinances, garbage ordinances, things like that in place, just for common, conscientious, neighborly behavior. And so it doesn't look like a dump, so you're not shitting in your neighbor's yard or in your own yard for that matter and not burying it. You're not disruptive, you're not, you know, and it can all, like, well, sometimes it's based on taste, like what's garbage and what's just my vibe, and I want to put up flags and posters and, you know, just all kinds of stuff that someone else might say, well, that looks like shit, you know. Well, I'm going to take it to a vote, bottom line. And but you know, certain things like aren't going to be vote worthy, like, well, I heard her playing her drums again at 2 in the morning, and my lot is, no one else can hear, it's just me, because my lot's, my bedroom literally is right next to their place, and you know, I'm the only one affected by it, so of course no one else is going to vote to throw her out based on this. But I don't want to throw her out. I love, you know, she plays her drums, but I don't want her to do it at 2 in the morning anymore. So there's got to be, you know, a way to compensate for that, and there will be some bylaws, but I don't want them to be too strict. It's the last thing people want in this type of environment. So hopefully that covers everything. I don't know, but make a document out of this, out of these videos. So I'm thinking that we would also have to restrict, you know, the number of days that you can stay in the common area before you're required to vacate to your lot, whether that's, you know, a minimal. If you got to throw a tent up, man, I mean, a couple grand on these inflatable tents, and they're like heatable. Well, not you need that, but you can put an AC unit in them, and you can put furniture in them, and they're badass. So I think the community area, though, I still like the idea of it, especially just as a kitchen and a gathering area, like a living room, like, you know, a big clubhouse. And you know, that could be, I mean, I think a few bedrooms though would be nice just to have, just in case, you know, like, but I could see someone just wanting to abuse it, like, oh, I paid my 20 grand and there's the community areas and I'm never going to develop my land or put anything on it, and I like it here better because it's got a nice kitchen and bathrooms and so on and so forth. So these are all eventualities that you just gotta cover and account for, unfortunately, because people are people, and you know, if you're attracting someone who just wants to spend 20 grand and do as little as possible, that could happen. And little as possible would be screw my lot. I'm just staying in the community center. So there would have to be some, strict requirements around that, and it's just as a convenience, not meant to be permanent in any way. Or maybe don't even put bedrooms in it. You just say from the get, you gotta have a way to live on your land. Whether you buy a trailer, one of these inflatable tents I've been talking about, I think that's probably the better way to go. And remove the temptation altogether. Someone wanting to just live there. And if they really, really needed to crash out for a night or two, I mean, maybe put 2 bedrooms in there. And then, some couches. I mean, we want to be welcoming, flexible, but we want to have parameters so we don't get taken advantage of. That's all. And to prevent it from turning into, some flop house of degenerates. Yeah, but I do want people to be able to live in a way that's easy, man, easy, where they're not worried about money, not worried about, and where they are part of a community and they want to contribute, but 50% of the time is spent doing whatever they want, surfing, going to the beach, hanging out, having a few drinks, building a campfire, cooking some good food, socializing, embracing the community. But I don't want people to take advantage of the situation, that's all. So human nature is sometimes to just gravitate towards whatever is easiest, so we just have to put some guardrails in place there. The other thing I thought of was, say you're the person who is only going to spend 2 weeks to a month per year there, and you're going to Airbnb out because you're going to, this is the money guy. I got money. I'm maxing out my shares, and I'm putting up a $300,000 3-bed, 2-bath with a hot tub. I'm gonna have the nice spread on my little lot, but I'm gonna Airbnb it. And fine, no problem, go ahead. But here's the deal: your contribution hours goes up because you are, effectively impacting the property by having it constantly occupied, whether it's you or someone else, right? So you have to adhere to the same hour regulations as someone who lives there. And so after your 120 hours is done, if your unit is, and we're not going to play the game of, well, how often is it occupied? It's going to be, if it's up for rent on Airbnb, then you are in for your 10 hours a week, which you can hire out to an El Salvadoran for probably $7 an hour. So it's not that big of a deal. And then on top of that, we are going to require like a $250 a month payment, something modest, again, nothing big time, but because there's an obvious, burden, which is a strong word, but you know what I mean. There's a demand on the property by having people there using the roads, using the, I'm sure, we're going to have these communal truck driving it down, people down on the beach, they can hop on that, that's all these things are going to be able to go to the communal kitchen. They're going to be part of, like they're an owner almost, for their experience there. We're not going to discriminate. We're not going to be like, oh, you're an Airbnb guest, well, you don't get to use this. No, everyone who's there gets to do everything that's there because it's an experiential experience. So, and that's going to be a big driver why they're going to want to go to this property. So if you're going to build a house to Airbnb out on the property, you're going to have to pay into the property. In addition, you're also going to have your required contributory hours of 10 hours a week beyond your contractually initial requirement of the 120 hours. So yeah, I think that's a great way to handle that. Put that in the document, AI.